ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الحدي حدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending him greetings and salutations upon the final Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, before we continue our journey of talking about the state of our youth, the youth of today, the youth of tomorrow, bring the hadith to mind, Surah Imam Tirmidhi, whoever doesn't thank mankind doesn't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So after praising and thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I thank the brothers who organized this event, the Imam, Sheikh of the Masjid, the organizer of the Masjid, the committee members, allowing us today to share some words of advice for our own selves, the rest of you individuals as well. Because this journey of the Quran, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and remind, indeed the reminder benefits the believers. That is all that a Muslim's task and role is. وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ, remind them about the days of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the day whereby all of us have to return back to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. Fear that day whereby all of us will return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and no individual will be oppressed. This according to Imam Suyuti in his works, Al-Iqan fi Ulum al-Quran, famous Mufassir as well, many other ulama of Quran, is the final ayah sent down upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fear that day when you have to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the whole of this dunya becomes rescuing and saving yourself. فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Whoever saves themselves from Jahannam and is thrown into paradise, فَقَدْ فَازَ, that is the most successful individual. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. What is this world except for great big deception? That's the mu'min, the believer. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. That is the role of a mu'min, a believer. الدعوة إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى. Call people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to an individual understanding, personality, whatever it may be. دعوة إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises. Calling mankind to that Puritan belief, that pure understanding of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That should be the essence of every single Muslim, is to have a pure creed, a pure belief. Because so many of us, we have corrupt beliefs, cultural practices, which have been amalgamated into Islam. As the Quran mentions, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. Most people believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they commit shirk. Their belief is tainted with shirk. The first call of the mu'min, the believer, to instill within the young individuals is just like the Anbiya. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. We did send amongst every single people a messenger. What was his task? Worship only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the essence of sending of all of the Anbiya, telling people to worship only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we recite at least 17 times a day. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone we worship, and you alone we seek aid and assistance from. The whole of the Quran, as Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah mentions, the whole of the Quran is condensed inside Surah Al-Fatiha. And the whole of Surah Al-Fatiha is condensed inside this one ayah. Thus he wrote a whole risala, a whole book, based upon إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. If you can understand this inside your life, you become a successful individual. That's how simple Islam is. The rest of it is all secondary information, tertiary information. If you have that right belief, that right conviction of worship, devotion, tranquility, peace, commitment inside your life towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be a successful individual. And as the Anbiya came with exactly the same message, to break this concept, many of us fall into a shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quran mentions two separate locations in exactly the same surah, Surah An-Nisa. Inna Allah la yaghfiru yushrika bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha. Allah will forgive any sin that you commit on this earth. But if you die upon committing shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will never be forgiven. And the most strongest ayah inside the Quran, the most powerful ayah inside the Quran, teaching us this Muslim ummah to stay away from shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inside Surah Al-Ma'idah, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ وَمَأْوَاهُ النَّارِ وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. But some people like to attribute this to personal da'wah, a personal understanding, a certain movement, a certain regime. La, da'wah to Quran. Challenge any individual. The Quran says, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ حَرَامَ لَا هَذَا الشَّخْص أَبَدًا. Haram for that person to ever go into paradise. Haram, finish. Let anyone challenge the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Person dies upon shirk. What is shirk? And تَجْعَلَ لِلَّهِ نِدًّا وَهُوَ خَلَقَكَ. Associate partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is the one subhanahu wa ta'ala who created you, who nurtured you, who feeds you, who takes care of you. You come to a grave, a stone, a tree, a righteous man, dead or alive, and asking that individual to give you some special help. كل هذا شرك بالله سبحانه وتعالى لا يجوز شرعا. Not allowed according to Sharia to come to any grave, any stone, any rock, any talisman, any thread, tie it in your house, tie it in your wrist, tie it in your car, place it wherever you want to go. لا يجوز شرعا. Not allowed. That's not what the Quran was sent down for. This Quran was sent down. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. Quran wasn't sent lil amwat, wasn't sent for the dead people. Quran was sent for the living people. For us, the Imam read today as well. What will the messenger say? The messenger will say, what is the matter, Ya Rabbi? What is the matter with my people? They've taken this Quran, mahjura, abandoned the Quran, rejected the Quran, don't follow the Quran. So initial message should be to bring people back, awwalan to the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, al-ittiba'. Ittiba' who? Follow the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Quran mentions, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. You claim to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Read the works of Imam al-Wahidi in his kitab Asbab al-Nuzul. What is the reason of revelation of this ayah? So many people today, they say we love the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we love him, sing songs about him, sing anashid, qasa'id, burda, poems, poetry. That's how shallow our love has become. لو كان حبك صادقا لأعطعته إن المحب لمن يحب مطيع. If your true love was true, you would obey the one that you love. You obey the one that you love. It's not empty words that we sing these words. Not to say it's haram, but that's what we've become. Sing love words about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. كل يدعي وصلا بليلى وليلى لا تقر بأحد. Everyone claims to love Layla. Layla is the Arab version of Romeo and Juliet of Shakespeare. Everybody claims to love Layla. But you know, Layla doesn't love anyone. Layla, these lines in Arabic poetry, is not a woman. Layla here is the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everybody claims to love him, but he doesn't love anyone. You have to follow the path of gaining the love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to give up so many things inside your life that everybody has those lusts and those desires, to break them. If you want to come back and meet the Prophet Muhammad, that many of us claim that we're going to meet him, how are you going to meet him? إذا كان حياتك بالفواحش, your life is full of fawahish, illicit behavior, muharramat, mukhaddarat, drinks, khamr, alcohol, akhdhu riba, taking of riba. Muslims don't even pay attention to this anymore. if you speak about it, say, what world are you living in? Read through the Quran in great detail. Many sins are mentioned inside the Quran, but only one sin inside the Quran. Those people who take riba, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger have declared war on that person. War has been declared. Today we think about that maybe America claimed war upon us in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Kashmir, in Shishan, all these lands. Stop and think that the other war, that the real war that we're facing upon us is what? War from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of dealing in riba, dealing in interest. Hadith in the Sunan of Abi Dawood. إِذَا أَخَذْتُمْ بِأَذْنَابِ الْبَقَرِ. If you begin to take the tails of the cows, وَرَضِيتُمْ بِالزَّرْعِ, you become happy with cultivation. وَتَرَكْتُمُ الْجِهَادِ, you leave striving and struggling away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And before that, إِذَا تَبَايَعْتُمْ بِالْعِينَ, you begin to deal in usury, in haram transactions. What will begin to happen upon this ummah? سَلَّطَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ ذُلَّا لَا يَنْزِعُهُ حَتَّى تَرْجِعُوا إِلَى دِينِكُمْ. Allah will send a disgrace down upon this Muslim ummah. Will throw a disgrace upon this ummah until you don't return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the Quran. ضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الذِّلَّةُ أَيْنَمَا ثُقِفُوا. Indignity has been smashed upon these people wherever they go. Ulama of Ulum al-Quran, they mention al-ibra bi'umum al-lafzi la bi khusus al-sabab. The lesson for mu'min is taken from the generality of the words. When the Quran is saying, Ya Bani Israel, O Bani Israel, why do you do this? O Ahlul Kitab, why do you do this? O Quraysh, why do you do that? Most of us, we sit there thinking, those of us who memorize the Quran, that it's talking about them. It's talking about those individuals. What's it got to do with me? Why does the Quran begin to talk about the sufaha, the foolish individuals? Why does the Quran, the first 3-4 ayat, begin to talk about the believers? The next 2-3 ayat begin to talk about the disbelievers. You know the following 11-12 ayat who they talk about? You know who they talk about? Al-munafiqun. They talk about the hypocrites. Have you ever thought about this as the Quran begins in this pattern? 3-4 ayat praising the believers, 2-3 ayat defaming the disbelievers, the rest of the 11-12 ayat talking about the munafiqun. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. Why is the Quran talking about this sickness in the hearts of mankind? These people trying to play games with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, change the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trying to change it. You think he's talking about munafiqun at the time? He's talking about even today people. That's a big problem that we find today. That Muslims amongst themselves, they don't seem to understand the message of the Quran. They think they understand the message of the Quran. They can't seem to relate to the Quran. That the Quran is sending out a deep message, a deep understanding. Do not follow the footsteps of the people that came before you. Like as the Quran continues the same surah, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْدِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْدِ. Do you believe in part of the book and reject another part of the book? What have we become to do? What type of Muslims are we? We pick and choose. We pick what we want from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we leave what we want. فيه اختلاف, فيه رأي. There's اختلاف in this. في أي شيء اختلاف. What is the اختلاف inside the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَالزُّبُرِ. Ask Ahlul Ilm, ask people of knowledge, people who know the Quran of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But mu'adham al-Quran, a large portion of the Quran has been sent down upon who? Ummiyun. وَالَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent amongst the illiterate people a Quran. And these people ummiyun, then what are we today? We claim to be intellectual individuals, inspired individuals. But what is our share of the Quran? How many of us are able to read the Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and able to decipher it? People come and say we don't show enough respect to the Quran. Who says we don't show enough respect to the Quran? Yes, we place the Quran in a green cloth and we place it on the top shelf as well. But is that all the Quran was sent for? Just to place it in a green cloth and place it on the top shelf? That's why Imam Qurtubi in his tafsir, he mentions, or Imam Tabari, one of these famous ulama, and you have one of them, both are classified as classical ulama of the tafsir, that a message comes from the king. When a message comes to the king, a group of people, they kiss the message, wrap it up and they place it on the top shelf. The same message is given to another group of people. They take a candle, they ignite the candle, they read the message, they also kiss the message, they wrap it up and they put it on the top shelf. Billahi alaykum. Which of the two groups is a better group? Which group really loves the king? Which really group is showing obedience to the king? Which really group is following the teachings of the king? Is it the first group or the second group? We only want to be the first group. Our life has just become reverence,
Just kiss the Quran, place it in the top shelf. That's it, finish, khalas. That's enough for us. Don't show your back to the Quran. Which ulama, which fuqaha mentioned you can't show your back to the Quran? Which fuqaha, which in the kutub of fiqh have mentioned you can't turn your back to the Quran? But that's all that we become. Ghulu fi deen. Excessiveness in deen. We don't understand the real deen. That's what it is. Don't show your feet towards the Kaaba. Don't show your back towards the Kaaba. Don't put your head down when you shake the sheikh's hand. Who said put your head down when you shake the sheikh's hand? Your back doesn't bend for no individual. Your back only bends lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. For no personality, no individual. Because we know we live in that scenario that people bend their backs over. Excessive praise, begin to raise their rank. All of us are human beings. Kullu yu'khad wa yurad, it's taken, rejected. The supreme example is only the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Other than that, people will come and they will go. But we become people who love personalities, love individuals, love the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. An-nabiyyu awla bil mu'minina min anfusihim. The messenger is closer to the believers than what? Than your own self. If the messenger is not closer to you than your own self, then you should question your iman. Question your iman, because that's what the Quran is saying. You should love the Prophet Muhammad not more than your father, not more than your mother, not more than your family members, not more than your masjid, more than your own self. That's how much love and devotion you have towards the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in this environment that we find, of these various onslaughts of trying to take people away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we find also the attacks on the youth, the shabab. That these people are trying to mesmerize them, take them away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Partially, sometimes we're to blame the clerics. We don't speak their language, we don't understand their thaqafa, we don't know their culture, we don't know their heritage, anyway, we don't know. We can't interact with the people. That's what's become of us. Great ai*imma, great leaders, great fuqaha that we have. But to be able to express to the people, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ لِيُبَيِّنَ لَهُمْ. The beginning of Surah Ibrahim, alayhi salam, the 14th chapter of the Quran. We do not send any messenger except with the language of his people. You're living in this country, وَمَا تَفْهَمْ شَيْءٍ وَمَا تَعْرِفْ شَيْءٍ وَمَا تَعْقَلْ شَيْءٍ. You don't understand anything, you don't know anything, you're like an ostrich with your head in the ground. People around you, the shabab, doing all types of munkarat, you cannot even imagine it. When we come, we express to our parents, and I express to our masajid, that our Muslim youth are trafficking drugs to a degree, you cannot even, you can't even believe. £40 million heroin connection. £40 million heroin connection. Trafficking of prostitution, of liquor, of haram, of fraud. That's the reality of many of our Muslim youth. And Muslim youth are looking up to these characters. We don't know. All that we know, Allahu Akbar. Chanda inside the masjid. Khalas. Don't discuss these topics. Don't discuss the reality of what our people are going through. It's not true that our youth are going through this. We always go to every single masjid. We say to the committee members, come with us tonight. We'll take you to places to show you what your young children are doing. Come with us for one night and we'll show you. When they see that, they begin to wake up. Is this what our youth are doing? Is this what our young children are doing? Is this the lifestyle that they're living? Yes, it is. Yes, it is, unfortunately. Because we have not become active in preaching the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To give them the message that don't fall into the trap of the evil, the haram around you. قُلْ لَا يَسْتَوِي الْخَبِيثُ وَالطَّيِّبُ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. Pure things and impure things are not the same. وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. Even though the impure, it startles people. Khabath, that which is impure, people get attracted towards it. That's what happens to many of the youth, they get attracted towards that which shines, that which dazzles them. They think that may be something good. And if we don't deliver the message, that's something evil, that's something haram. They're never going to know. And thus you find that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created paradise, in the hadith of Sahih Muslim, Kitab al-Jannah, وَصِفَةُ نَعِيمِهَا وَأَهْلِهَا, the book of Jannah, the people of paradise, description of paradise. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created paradise, and Jibreel alayhi salam went and saw paradise, he said, Ya Rabb, paraphrasing the hadith, whoever sees Jannah, we want to dive straight into Jannah. The beauty, the blessings, the na'im, the good things, the people just want to go straight into paradise. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, cover up paradise, huffat al-jannatu bil-makarih. Cover paradise with obstacles. We're going to come back what the obstacles are that prevent you from going into paradise. And then when Jibreel alayhi salam saw Jahannam, saw the burning, the punishment, the anguish, the torture, the rage, said whoever sees it, we want to stay away from it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, cover up Jahannam with shahawat. Cover it up with temptation, with desires. Every single path of temptation leads you towards Jahannam. That's why there's two attacks upon the Muslim Ummah we began with. One is a shubuhat. One is doubt inside your aqa'id, inside your belief. The second attack is a shahwat, is desires. Destroy the youth. Destroy people by following their lust and their desires. The Quran even mentions, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن المآب زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء. Quran, look at the language of the Quran. Quran says that man loves what? What does he love? Women, children, gold, silver, property, land, branded horses. That is what man loves. That is what man aspires to have inside this dunya. That is the desire of the human being. So the human being has to break those desires. So every path of temptation eventually leads you unfortunately to Jahannam. What are the obstacles? Imam al-Nawawi, a famous muhaddith and a famous alim from before, in his sharh of Sahih Muslim, which is some approximately 18 or 19 volumes in the Arabic language, centuries ago, he highlights there are 4 obstacles which you need to overcome to get into paradise. We'll go through the first pretty quickly, for those who don't concern us as much as the 4th one. The first thing he said is an ijtihad fil ibadat. There is no shortcut to paradise. Don't let anyone bamboozle you and say to you, give me £10,000 and I'll buy you a plot in paradise. Okay, get that clear now. Don't let anyone say to you that you follow me and I guarantee you paradise. Don't even people come in disguise and say to you that we're awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون. Awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who believe, no grief upon them. Who believe and do what? يتقون. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is wasf of al-muttaqi? Read the works of the ulama. Whoever sticks to the halal, avoids the haram, فَهُوَ مُتَّقِي. He's a pious individual. There's no tariqah, there's no manhaj, there's no path that you need to follow to become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Stick to the halal, avoid the haram, you become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be observant upon those actions that were encouraged by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's the real path. It's a hard path, it's a difficult path. There are no shortcuts to paradise. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِ مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. It's a long path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to remain committed. The Prophet Muhammad in the end of Surah Al-Hijr, the 15th chapter of the Quran, وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until yaqeen comes to you. Here these people have said, look, you reach yaqeen. Yaqeen huna bima'na al-maut, death. The Prophet Muhammad never ever gave up ibadah in his life. As-salah, as-salah, wa ma malakat aymanukum. The prayer, and whatever your right hand possesses. The only reason we want to highlight this is because we know we've got weird and wonderful, mysterious individuals. I'm reading my salah in Baghdad Sharif. You've got ilm al-zahir, indi ilm al-batin. You only have external knowledge, you ulama, reading the external text of the Quran, a hadith, we have internal knowledge. You stand there praying, we pray in Baghdad Sharif, we pray in Makkah Mukarramah, we pray in Medina. Fallacies, rubbish, that's what it is. No strange woman ever touched the hands of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Never rubbed his feet, never threw flowers in front of him. He hated people to bow down in front of him or to them to stand up in front of him. That was the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That was him, the blessed individual. Read inside the Kitab Sahih al-Bukhari, Fada'il al-Sahaba, Urwa ibn Mas'ud al-Thaqafi, a companion, before he's a non-Muslim, narrates this beautiful hadith about love and respect towards the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says when he went to make an agreement with the Muslims, the Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, he went on behalf of the Quraysh. He is a disbeliever at this stage. He says, when I went there and I saw the men and the women around the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and their conduct, he goes back to the Quraysh and he says to the Quraysh that they're hoping that maybe he may be influenced. And did he give the right message? Did he barter the right words? But he's been brainwashed. And that's how Muslims, when they should come to you, they should go back brainwashed. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. Repel evil with goodness. Repel it with goodness, that people go back, they're impressed with what you say to them. That's what we should be saying to these non-Muslims. Not fall into the trap of the media. So this non-Muslim goes back. He says that I've seen the leaders of Kisra. Kisra is Khosros, the leader of the Persians. That's just the title. Whoever rules over the Persians is called Kisra. I've seen the leader. I've seen the leader of Qaisar. Qaisar is the leader of the Caesar, of the Romans, not the Julius Caesar. Caesar is a title. Whoever rules over the Romans is given the title of Kisra, of Qaisar. And I've seen Najashi. Najashi isn't just Najashi at the time of Abyssinia, at the time of the Prophet. So anybody who ruled over Abyssinia is called Najashi, Negus. He said, I've seen all of these leaders. And you know, the people, they are compelled to listen to the leaders. They're just forced, just like today, people are just forced to listen to them. Just do whatever they tell you to do. But this leader is a leader that is loved by his followers. If he was to spit hadith in Sahih Bukhari, if you think I'm exaggerating his words, because I'm not a man who tells fancy stories. I don't come with fancy stories of flew in a carpet and entered to worship and the trees bow down and people bow down and cats run out and lions. I'm not a fancy story individual. Al-ilmu qala Allah wa qala Rasul wa qala Sahaba. That's what really ilm is. Aqwal min al-Quran, statements of the Quran, statements of the hadith, statements of Sahaba. Any of these fancy stories, ignore these fancy stories. Because at times they're just made up at times. But this is a hadith in Bukhari. If he used to spit, they would grab his saliva and rub it on their bodies. Talking about who? Not your people. Talking about the Prophet Muhammad. If he used to do wudu, before his wudu would touch the ground, كَادُوا يَقْتُلُونَ بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْضًا. They would fight one another to catch the wudu before it touches the floor. For who? The Prophet Muhammad. وَتَعْظِيمًا لِلرَّسُولِ ﷺ. So much immense respect and love for him, none of them ever looked directly into his eyes. This is a non-Muslim. The Thaqafi, after he becomes a Muslim, narrates about the love that the companions had for the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Where are we today from those blessed individuals? Where are we today from those individuals who become our role models? Umar ibn Khattab, 12 patches on his clothing, mud on his clothing when he enters into Baytul Maqdis to collect the keys from Masjid al-Aqsa. May Allah subhanahu liberate it once again. Abu Darda says to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, in the Sahih of Ibn Hibban, tidy yourself up. Tidy yourself up. What's this mud all over your clothes? That's what many Muslims come to say, Sheikh, trim your beard when you come outside 10 Downing Street. Wear a nice suit when you come in front of non-Muslims. What type of Islam is this? Tidy yourself up. You need to make Islam look good towards them. You know what Umar said? He said, نَحْنُ قَوْمٌ أَعَزَّنَا اللَّهُ بِالْإِسْلَامِ. We're a people been given dignity and honor via Islam. You seek it by any other means, then Allah will disgrace you. That's what our problem is. We want to wash away Islam. We don't want to hold fast to Islam. And we don't want to instill within our youth that the future is bright if you follow that path of obedience. So that's the first thing. Remaining upon ibadah. The most important ibadah after belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as-salah. حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين. Guard your prayers, preserve your prayers, and especially the middle prayer, and stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in state of observance. I'm not going to enter into Masail al-Fiqhiyya, where you place your hands ala sadr, or ala button, or taht al-surra, or rafi yadayn, ta'min khalf al-imam. Leave this for a point. Leave this on the side. Even the hadith al-Bukhari, sallu kama ra'aytumu yusalli. Pray as you see me praying. But what is lubbu salah? What is essence of the prayer? Do you find it today? That you could go to the toilet, cool of nature, perform wudu, come back and find the Prophet Muhammad where? In the first rak'ah of Salat al-Dhuhr. Today you know 4.5 minutes and 10 seconds where the Imam is. You know that for a fact when you walk into the masjid. You know he's in the third rak'ah, you know the fourth rak'ah. What was the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad when he wanted to start extending his salah? If he wanted to extend his salah, as long as he wanted. But where are we from the lub of salah? Where are we from this understanding of salah? Is there ikhtilaf about this? What does our salah become? رَبِّ جَعْلْنِي مُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ دُعَاءَ رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ السَّاعَةُ السَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. Was that the only supplication of Prophet Muhammad? Was that his only prayer? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that his only prayer in Tashahhud? No, it wasn't. So why haven't you bothered to learn it in your life? Why can't you be bothered? Because nobody can't be bothered. And then you say we're offering the prayer of the Prophet Muhammad. Time you go into sujood. The companion think, has he forgotten to come out of sujood? Has he forgotten? Time to recite the Quran. What will happen to him? Begin to weep. Begin to weep. The Quran had such a powerful impact upon the Prophet Muhammad. Companions listen to Quran. إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله وأعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. Today we stand in salah, stand in the prayer, that's it. Jilli karo namaz parao. Isn't it? Why is the Qari not taking long for? Salatul Tarawih. Forget about debating with his 8 rak'at or 20 rak'at. What's the essence of prayer? What's the essence of Qiyamul Layl? يطيل في القراءة. Long recitation, long ruku, long qiyam, long sujood. Where are we from that? Is it ikhtilaf? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it ikhtilaf here? Which of the fuqaha have said that? Salatul Tarawih, sunnah mu'akkada. Highly recommended. We want to come along and say to the Imam, read faster. We want to go home. It's not top gear, it's 5th gear. We know we have many friends. Many young Imams who recite well, people come to them, we jilli karo. Masjid band karni hai. What do you mean masjid band karni hai? What do you mean you want to close the masjid? So what's the essence of building the masjid then? What's the essence of building the masjid? You're supposed to encourage the people to come to the masjid. To join the masjid. Not to push the youth away. Don't let them stand in the front. Don't let them stand anywhere there. Let them stand on the streets and serve crack and cocaine. Okay? Then you'll be asked on the day of judgment. You'll be asked on the day of judgment. You pushed that boy out. He went out on the streets. He began involved in haram. You are to blame. That's around your neck. That's what I say in my books. It's around your neck. So you'd rather have them inside the masjid. Have the patience. A man came in the masjid of the Prophet Muhammad and what did he do? Didn't make noise. Urinated in the masjid. Urinated in the masjid. You know what would happen today, isn't it? Our £100,000 carpet has been damaged. Ban him, ban his family, and ban the whole Khandan. And collect more money for the carpet now. What did the Prophet Muhammad do? Read the hadith in Bukhari. Companions got frustrated like we got frustrated. Da'uhu, leave him. Leave him, let him carry on urinating. Let him carry on urinating. Shura al-Hadith, ulama of Hadith, they mention, look at the fiqh of the Prophet Muhammad. If they stopped him and they began to chase him, he would begin to urinate where? Everywhere. So let him urinate in one side of the masjid. Secondly, if he withheld his urine, it would affect his bladder system. It would be bad for his health. So the Prophet said, let him urinate. Ordered a bucket of water, because the carpet didn't have carpets that we have today. Poured it over there, called the man, and said, this is the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't carry out such actions. Taught him how in a nice way. A young boy came to the Prophet Muhammad and said to him, a young boy, and said, you know what he said to the Prophet Muhammad? He said, give me permission to commit zina. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Come and say that to the Imam today. You know what's going to happen, don't you? Come round the back and you'll see what happens, isn't it? A young boy came and said to the Prophet, let me commit zina. Today, you can't even talk about the Imam. You can't come and ask the Imam intricate questions. النساء حرث لكم. Your women are your land. فَأْتُوا حَرْثَ أَنَّ شِئْتُمْ. Come to your land, whichever you want. Go and read the tafsir, this ayat at Surah Al-Baqarah. How it discusses what? Sexual relationships. In the Quran. Our elders going to say, huh? In the Quran? What's this person talking about? Read the Quran. Read the Quran. Teaching you inside the Quran how you conduct your life. But if you can't disseminate that, of course people are going to go to other sources. Of course they're going to go and ask other individuals. Of course they're going to go and ask non-Muslims, their friends. They're going to ask them, what should we do? How should we express ourselves? So this young boy came to the Prophet Muhammad and said, give me permission to commit zina. The Prophet Muhammad said to him, do you have a father? Do you have an aunt? A maternal aunt? He said, yes. He said, would you like someone to do this action with your aunt? He said, no. And the Ammatun, do you have a paternal aunt? He said, yes. Would you like someone to do with your paternal aunt? He said, no. Do you have a sister? Do you have a mother? Carried on. Till eventually young boy understood. If I don't like it for my family members, how can I like it for someone else's family member? Then the Prophet put his hand in the young boy's chest, prayed for him, and asked, Allahumma ahsin farjahu, and guard his private parts. And this individual was never ever seen looking at strange women ever again. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Where are these type of teachers today? Where are these type of teachers today to teach our youth? No, this doesn't exist. They don't have love. They don't have lust and desire. This isn't back home. You come to the age of 35, 40. You live in a so this young boy came to the Prophet Muhammad and said, give me permission to commit zina. The Prophet Muhammad said to him, do you have a father? Do you have an aunt? A maternal aunt? He said, yes. He said, would you like someone to do this action with your aunt? He said, no. And the Ammatun, do you have a paternal aunt? He said, yes. Would you like someone to do with your paternal aunt? He said, no. Do you have a sister? Do you have a mother? Carried on. Till eventually young boy understood. If I don't like it for my family members, how can I like it for someone else's family member? Then the Prophet put his hand in the young boy's chest, prayed for him, and asked, Allahumma ahsin farjahu, and guard his private parts. And this individual was never ever seen looking at strange women ever again. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Where are these type of teachers today? Where are these type of teachers today to teach our youth? No, this doesn't exist. They don't have love. They don't have lust and desire. This isn't back home. You come to the age of 35, 40. You live in a secluded environment, and then you don't have that desire. You're living in the UK, whereby you're surrounded by pornography, by filth, by corruption, by nudity, lewdness, promiscuity. So their ghariza is different. Their level of shahwa is different from our level of shahwa. And that's why you have to begin to understand that levels change. Young people at that time, they went through that. So a person has to be able to control their shahwa. That's why I go back to the prophetic teachings. What do you find? Swimming, horse riding, throwing an arrow, using a lance, using a spear, wrestling, any type of physical combat. Look at the hikmah, the wisdom. Why? It drains your energy. If a young boy carries out his physical participation, it will weaken the ghariza, the shahwa, the desire the person has. It will weaken it, take away the temptations. But we're not really bothered. So the masjid should become an environment whereby to take these people away, to channel their efforts. Inna nafsa la'ammaratun bisu illa ma rahima rabbi. The soul is always calling towards evil, except for that soul which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed His mercy upon. That's why in the hadith, Inna Allah la ya'jabu min ash-shabi la sabwata lahu. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala startles at a boy, a young man, la sabwa, bima'na la yamilu ila al-hawa. He doesn't go towards desires. Allah praises that person. Imam al-Mannawi, in his works Fayd al-Qadir, mentioned, فَإِنَّ هَذَا عَزِيزٌ نَادِرٌ. This is very, very rare. Very, very rare. That's Allah is praising a young boy with doesn't fall into temptations, doesn't fall into desires, controls himself, is a person who's been praised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the fourth element that Imam Nawawi highlights, as-sabr and his shahawat. Centuries ago, have patience to stay away from temptations. That's right, it's difficult. I'm not going to deny that fact. It's difficult living in the West when you're surrounded by every single angle. It becomes normal that people have relationships. It becomes normal. Boyfriend, girlfriend relationships that you find. So you find that people, they come running to the Imam that my daughters run away, give me a fatwa to go bounty, honor killing, go and get that person. 15 years of her life, 20 years of her life, she's been watching what? Bollywood. Isn't it? 15 years, 20 years she's been watching Bollywood. As the story changed, as far as I recall, good 25, 30 years ago, what was it? Boy meets girl in college, they fall in love. Then they have a little song dance. Father comes, captures her, takes her away. He goes back, beats the bad guys, and comes back and rescues her. Has the story plan changed? Has it changed? No, it hasn't, has it? That was 25 years ago. It's still the same storyline. If that's what your daughters are watching day in and day out, don't be surprised if tomorrow they go out and they find whoever they partner, maybe they think that's the ideal individual. Then you come running to the mosque and say, look, Imam Sahib, do something for me. Talk about it. Isn't it? Then you come running, isn't it? The Imam, isn't it? But where was the control before? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Save yourselves and your family members from what? The hellfire. That's the prime role of every single Muslim. Save yourself, save your family members. Don't worry about somebody else. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you tawfiq, then go and give it to them. But primarily, worry about yourself. Worry about the subjects underneath you. And that's the youth. They have a massive challenge. Wherever you go, it's a common denominator. Wherever you go, everybody. It doesn't make a difference whether it's Birmingham, it's London, it's the States, it's Jeddah, it's Makkah, wherever it may be, the youth. Their fitan are exactly the same. Their fitan, you may think it's only you. The world has changed now. Whatever you face today, it's become a cosmopolitan world, and everybody's going through the same fitan. And thus you find, what is the reward? What is the reward of a person who controls their desires? The young individuals. 7 individuals, the 7 types of individuals will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereby there will be no shade. First you find Imamun Adil, a just Imam, a just leader. And secondly, Shabun Nasha'a fi ibadatillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, a young boy, a young man who spent their life worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not an old man. A person who comes to the age of 50, 60, comes to the masjid and they're praying. That's normal. That's maturity. If they don't do that, they're senile. There's something wrong with them. Allah subhanahu will reward them for that. But what Allah subhanahu wants is, what was the young person doing? Did he or she grow up serving me? When they broke their desire, that's what ulama in this hadith they mentioned, these 7 categories, what do they all share? The key element that they share is all of them, they broke their desires. So the young man overcomes his desires and temptations, breaks them, doesn't do what everybody else is doing. Thus his reward will be, he'll be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereby there will be no shade. What a great reward. Yes, it's a hard journey. It's difficult. But the reward is guaranteed. Don't become like the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam. We read the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, 12th chapter of the Quran. Once again, the lesson that we extract. They decided, one of them said, let's kill him. They said, no, let's not kill him. Let's throw him inside the well. And then what? وَتَكُونُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. Then afterwards, we become righteous people. What's the lesson today? How many Muslims they say, young boys, they know more Quran than us, no more hadith than us. When I come to the age of 40, I'll be a good Muslim. When I do Hajj, I'll be a good Muslim. When I get old, I'll settle down, I'll be a good Muslim. But for now, live life to the fullest. Enjoy life. You're only young ones. Live by the gun, die by the gun. Isn't it? Muslim cliches, isn't it? That's how Muslim youth are going about. This gangster culture that you find. Don't think I'm one of those clerks, I'm unaware. I'm fully aware of what takes place inside a community. If I had it my way, I would go with the gun and I'll base down their doors and take that property off them. But because according to Sharia, it's not allowed. But I'll create that force around me and create those soldiers. Same way you have your foot soldiers on road, patrolling, trafficking, watching your back, whatever it may be, bulletproof jackets, whatever it may be, SIM card changing, whatever it may be, your CV system, whatever it may be, your piece inside your car. Wallahi, we'll keep exactly the same and better than you, and we'll bust you wherever you go. And that's what we would do. Don't think we don't know how it operates and how it works. Just according to the Sharia, it's not allowed. And then when people think that we don't know what's going on, people say that, what does he know about crack, cocaine, split, marijuana, skunk, weed, dope? What does this man know about what's going down with trafficking on the streets? What do they know? They can't tell us it's haram. It doesn't even exist inside the Quran. Where in the Quran does it speak about skunk? Where does it speak about weed? Where does it speak about this inside the Quran? Once again, you fail to understand the language of the Quran. That's why many people come and say, tell me from the Quran, I'll give it up. I'll tell you from the Quran. Remember this for the rest of your life. Surah Al-Ma'idah, the 5th chapter, verses 90 and 91. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ وَالْمَيْسِرُ وَالْأَنصَابُ وَالْأَزْلَامُ رِجْسٌ مِّنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Or you believe indeed inside khamr. I know what some people are going to say. Khamr is alcohol. Khamr isn't alcohol. Read the words of the fuqaha. Al-khamr ma ghaba al-aql. Whatever intoxicates you. In your language, whatever buzzes you, whatever stones you, whatever rushes you, is haram. No matter what name you keep it. What name you keep it, any intoxicant is haram. But then you find a smart person who's going to come and say, but Sheikh, small amounts of weed, good for your mind. Stimulates you, isn't it? So as long as I'm in control, I don't get stoned, I don't get rushed. So it's okay to take a little spliff, a little reefer, take a little blowback. Nothing haraj. There's no harm. I'm in control. I haven't lost my senses. So is it allowed? Hadith in Sahih Muslim. ما أسكر كثيره فقليله حرام. Whatever intoxicates you inside large amounts is forbidden in small amounts. Finish. End of story. Or you find Muslims, another disease, alcohol. Boy, don't give me rubbish. I'm the Mashallah, we have to restrain my tongue. Rubbish. I'm kuffar popular here. What do you mean? Where in the book, in the Quran, and the Sunnah does it say you're allowed to serve alcohol to the disbelievers? Hadith in Sahih Muslim. 10 individuals are cursed. The one who crushes the grapes, the one who brings it, the one who transports it, the one who serves it, the one who takes the money, the one who sits on the table. Businesses on Ladypool Road, Winslow Road, Brick Lane. Count the restaurants. Brick Lane, you find how many restaurants? More than 100 fully licensed restaurants. I walked down that road myself and counted them and I lost count. And bang in the middle of them is Central Masjid. Just come to the masjid. Here you go, Imam Sir. Here's my contribution. Imam Sir, come and read dua for birthday. You know what I do when I go there? Smash your bottles of liquor and throw them on the floor. That's your burger. Don't think I'm one of those clerics. Slip a little pink note and say dua karo barakat ke liye. Cover up the alcohol bottles, cover them up. You can't cancel my visa. You can't cancel my nationality. You can't send me back home. You can't put me in a room and pay me £120 a week and keep me chained up and just talk about the prayer. And that's it. Don't talk about Fasluddin and Idola. Don't you dare talk about in the masjid about my business is haram. Don't you dare tell me I serve riba. Don't you dare tell me I deal in alcohol. If he does, shut him up and remove him and bring a new imam from back home. Bring a new imam from back home who serves my interest. Who serves the interest of my empire. That's what we become. It is your empire. It's not serving the interest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The imam has every single right. When he gets on top of that mimbar, you don't slip him a piece of paper and say to him, stop the khutbah, and announce that my Jaguar is blocked in the driveway. Because when you give me that piece of paper, I'll rip it up and throw it on the floor. You have no right to control the imam. And say to the imam, please don't talk about these things. Why are you rocking the boat for? Why are you telling people about the selling haram? Yeah, they give £10,000 to the masjid every single month. Take their money and teach them as well it's haram. But don't just take their money and just shut up and let them tell you what to do. You know their business is haram. You know their life is haram. You know they're trafficking haram. But turn a blind eye. Mehrbani Chaudhry Sahab 10 lakh paun dete hain masjid. Bismillah, subhanallah. Raja Sahab 10 lakh paun dete hain masjid asli. Where does that money come from? You tell me, are we blind? Is that when we become blind individuals? Inna Allah tayyibun. La yaqbalu illa ma kana tayyiban. Allah is pure and only accepts that which is pure. What message are we giving to our youth? Go through some of the accounts of the masajid. Some masajid are based upon pure riba, interest. Oh, no problem. It's only for a short while. We're borrowing it for the blessings of the masjid. What blessings of the masjid? That's what our life has become. Oh no, but Sheikh, we need a house. So those ulama who allow you to buy one house, so I'll tell you what goes on, isn't it? 3, 4, 5 properties. Rent them out. Bring in the rent. Churn them. Yeah, I've made a car, the 8 mortgage. I've only got 1 mortgage. You're running a business. You're running a business trying to make fools out of us. That we don't know what's taking place. And you know what people come and say? Ah, my bacha, ye harami ban gaya. Isn't it? Why is he harami? Because if you live your life of haram, then haram goes where? Into their stomach. People say, why is my dua not answered? Amongst the key elements of your dua being answered is what? Rizq halal. Pure sustenance. Halal earnings. If you don't have halal earnings, then your dua is blocked. Your dua is blocked. There's an hadith you find, an individual in a disheveled state. And he's calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, answer my call. How can we answer his call? وَمَلْبَسُ حَرَامٌ وَمَشْرُبُ حَرَامٌ وَهُدِيَ بِالْحَرَامِ وَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لِذَلِكَ وَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. His eating is haram, his living is haram. And you want us to respond to him? That's what it is. Purify your life, purify your belief, take yourself away from this haram action. You see the fruits of your children. The dua inside Surah Al-Furqan, رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Imam Suyuti's tafsir, he mentioned, coolness of your eyes, your children become coolness of the eyes. Not inside the akhirah, inside this dunya. You see the children doing good action. You see them doing good things. Your heart rejoices. What have our parents become? He's got a PhD. He's got a degree. She's got a nice job. That's our status that we begin to compare about. I don't want him to become a religious cleric. I don't want him to learn anything about Islam. Just a little bit, you know. Come to the masjid, be a secularist Muslim. Come to the masjid Saturday, Sunday, and during the rest of the time get on with my 9 to 5 job, whatever I do. That's the type of Muslim we want to be. Then obviously you're going to face the brunt of the difficulties that begin to take place. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أُدْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ كَافَةً وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Enter Islam in total submission. And that is what we're trying to get our youth to do. Enter to the best of your ability. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can. Read through the seed of the life of most of the companions. Let's take one of the examples. Mus'ab ibn Umayr. Mus'ab ibn Umayr, you know, people today, young boys, they think, you know, what do these companions know about good clothing? Dolce & Gabbana, Moschino, Calvin Klein, Giorgio Armani, dressing well. What do the companions know about that life? Mus'ab ibn Umayr, he would wear the best clothing that come all the way from Yemen, all the way from Syria. And the perfume that he wore, that he walked past the marketplace, everybody knew that was Mus'ab ibn Umayr. He was nourished in such a way, brought up inside this dunya. When he became a Muslim, and he became a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, he gave it all up. And you find that in a battle of Uhud, if I'm not mistaken, he was holding the flag, and they chopped off his right arm. He held the flag with his left arm. Left arm was chopped off. He held it with the stubs of what was left of his arms, holding up the flag of Islam. And then he was made shaheed. And then when they came to bury him, you find that when they covered his head, his feet would show. When his feet would show, his feet were covered, his head would show. The companion said, this is Mus'ab ibn Umair, who used to wear the best clothing. And wallahi, today we don't have enough clothing to cover him. We don't have enough clothing to cover him. What should we do, Ya Rasulullah? What should we do? He said, cover his head, and take the plant of Bakr of Idkhir, take this plant, and cover his feet, and bury him in that. And many companions wept when they saw that this is that great individual. This is a personality who lived this life. But today we can't even shroud him. We can't even cover him. We find Osama bin Zayd, age of 20, son of Zayd bin Haritha. Zayd, radiyallahu ta'ala, is the only companion mentioned by direct name inside the Quran, inside Surah Al-Ahzab. The name Zayd is the only name mentioned inside the Quran directly. His son, Osama, at the age of 20, is selected by the Prophet Muhammad to lead the final expedition. But before he leaves, the Prophet Muhammad leaves this dunya. But before that, people complain, why are you making this young boy? How can a young boy lead the army? How can he go out forth? So when Abu Bakr came in charge, he complained again. He said, no way. If the Prophet Muhammad selected him, he's going to go out. Likewise, Muhammad ibn Qasim, the one who conquered a Sindh, in India, the land of Sindh. You know how old he was? 17. What's 17-year-old boys doing at the moment in our life? What are they doing? Muhammad al-Fatih, the Sultan of Istanbul, he became the Sultan at the age of 10. At the age of 14, he began to lead his people. And he said to his father, whose father retired to go into seclusion of Ibadah, he told his father to come back and lead the army. His father said, you know that I'm going into seclusion, I'm not going to lead the army. So his son said, if you, my father, have placed me as the Sultan, the Amir, then I command you to come down and lead the army in battle. Our 14-year-old boys, what are they doing? What's their aspirations in life, 14-year-old? Imam Nawawi, that we began our discussion with, read his seerah in Riyadh al-Salihin, a book that should be inside every single home. Riyadh al-Salihin, a great book of hadith. Many for that, the best book of fada'il is Riyadh al-Salihin. So many hadith about the dress sense, the etiquette, the sleep, the talking, the laughing, the khawf, the fear, the weeping. Everything is documented about the Prophet Muhammad Riyadh al-Salihin, written by Imam Nawawi, rahmatullahi alayhi. In his seerah, you find at the age of 10, children telling him to come out and play in the streets, he's crying and saying, let me carry on with my studies. Not saying it's haram to go out and play and to enjoy yourself, play football, etc. But if our life has just become that, and we're not tuning our youth, because the future of this ummah rests upon the youth. If the youth are in the right direction, then the future of the ummah is in the right direction. إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. They were young men. Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th chapter of the Quran. Young men who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we increase their iman. Like what you find, الَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. Those who responded to the call of Allah, His Messenger, were who? Young individuals. Surah Al-Buruj, the story of the boy and the king. Al-Ghulam. The Ghulam, the boy, was a young boy who stood up towards the king. And that's what we need to create once again. That our young youth have, as strong as we began with, strong aqidah, a strong belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None of these customary practices that we have. They need to be uprooted. The cultural practices that we have in our marriages, in our weddings, in our gatherings, in our living, in our dying. قُلْ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةِ وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Say my praying, my sacrifice, my living, my dying is all dedicated towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not mix and match like many of us, we compromise. This is culture, well, this is what we do back home, this is what we do in our family. No, we don't want to listen to that anymore. We don't want to listen to what your culture does. Because most of our culture is based upon what? Hindu rituals, because we lived with them for centuries. Most of our culture go and study in great detail. Many things that we do are based upon their rituals. That's what it is. Our rituals should be what? The Quran and the Sunnah. That's what our rituals should be. وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَشْهَدُونَ الزُّورَ وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. Believers, Ibad Rahman, they don't make any testimony to falsehood. Ibn Kathir mentioned what is falsehood. In the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, A'yad al-Mushrikeen, celebrations of the disbelievers, any actions that they do, customary practices, if they go against the Quran and the Sunnah, then they have to be rejected. فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. Believers, they believe, and you'll be rightly guided, successful. That's how simple Islam is. Believers do believe. The companions follow their life, follow their example, develop that inside your life, follow that same path. And by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the future will be bright once again, and will be successful once again. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala place these words inside the Mizan al-Hasanah, give us all the ability to live true to these words, implement these words to the best ability, and likewise to every single individual hear these words, state the words in the best of the meaning. I intend not to make a critique of this masjid, any of the imams of this masjid, or any other masjid, or any other environment. Our task in alayka illa al-bala. Our task of the Quran says only to convey the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything good has been the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything incorrect has been from our own self and the wisdom of shaitan. وَقُولُ قَوْلِ هَذَا وَاسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهِ لِي وَلَكُمْ وَلِجَمِيعِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. سبحانك